Raghunath, are you ready for this?
What?
The Wisdom of the Sages trainings that are going on.
Where?
At the Eco Village, the Govardhan Eco Village in India.
Why?
To totally transform your life spiritually.
Who?
You, me, Radha Swami's going to be there. Other great teachers are going to be there. Lots of cool people.
How?
You go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. You find all the information there.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Live here at Super Soul Farm. We got a big crew. Say Haribo. They can't hear you. You got to say it loud.
We heard it. We actually heard it.
You heard that? All right. We're here on our retreat with Cindy Lunsford and myself and Bobby Merchant's cooking. And we got a good crew here. Everybody just took a cold water plunge this morning. Which I documented but didn't plunge. But I think I get some points for just waking up and plunging with them or observing the plunge and the intention.
Where did they plunged in the
pond.
in your little pond out there?
In a little pond. It's just
That's pretty
cold enough.
serious.
It's
That's
cold
pretty
out. It was
serious.
great. It's cold out today too. And we had a nice kirtan last night. We're having a big public kirtan tonight. Last night we had a good kirtan. Tonight we have a public kirtan. So if you're local, come on down 6:30 to Super Soul Farm. Yeah, it's on. And next week, and Mara's here today. She is in. She's not back. Actually, she's still in Austin.
Back on the show.
She's back on the show. Yeah, welcome back, Mara.
Thanks. Missed you guys yesterday.
We missed you. We were fumbling around. We couldn't do it without
fumbling.
We just were
It
fumbling
sounded like
around,
a good
bumping
show.
into things. I was looking around, lost.
Did you listen to the show, Mara?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Oh, pretty good.
I
That's
thought you might just forget all about us.
I
I was worried she was going to come back all Texas, all different,
all
But
Texas.
no, she's still listening. She's staying connected. Okay.
I could see her with boots on.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Nope.
next week we're going to be heading out of town. The Wisdom of the Sages
Yeah.
posse is going to Chant Camp, California. So check that out. Go to mandala.org. And we're going to have a great kirtan, yoga, great food festival. I'm going to be emceeing. We're doing live Wisdom of the Sages. And we're looking forward to meeting everybody. There's a lot of others showing up. And they have camping is free with the pass, or you can get a cottage if you're a little wimpier. I don't mean wimpier. I mean, if you just want a cottage. I'll be in a cottage, by the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, Kaustubha.
Me too. It's coming up quick now.
I know. That's this week.
But if you're out there in that, especially that Northern California area or West Coast or whatever, come. It would be great to meet you if we haven't met yet, or it's a chance for us to hang out together, right?
Yeah, it is good. And we love meeting others. So today's Q&A day, and because we have a bunch of people here, even though we got some backlog questions, I wanted to take some questions from our people from the retreat. So unless we have any further announcements.
Well, we have no show tomorrow, right?
Oh, that's an important announcement.
Big
That's
announcement.
important. Yeah.
For you guys, a regular no show tomorrow, and of course announcing our India all our retreats in India. You can go to wisdomofthesages.com and hang out with us in January.
/events.
/events. Okay. Right. So we dive into this.
I am ready.
Our first question is from Ari from Long Island. Ari, come on down. Get in the hot seat here. Are you from Massachusetts? Okay, he's from Massachusetts. I got that all wrong. I should have read my show notes. But Ari is like a dedicated Savite here. He came to the ashram week, stayed 2 weeks, and he just fell in love. He was already practicing. Let me just hear a little bit up here.
He's a good
You got to
guy.
get real close to this mic. You're going to lean way in.
Yeah.
And what's your story, how you got into Bhakti in the first place? Come right in, put your face right on that microphone.
You got to
Oh,
eat
yeah,
that
sure.
microphone.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of stumbling around through life like 5 years ago, and I ended up at the Bhakti Center. I ended up moving like 15-minute walk from the Bhakti Center, so I started going there, and then they introduced me to you, so I ended up coming across you like a year and a half ago. I've been listening every day, kind of progressing in my Bhakti practice gradually over the last 5 years or so,
Wow.
and it's becoming more and more steady over the last 5 years.
What was your experience like at the ashram? Were you expecting it? Was it?
I didn't really know what to expect, but it was a powerful and amazing experience. I would definitely like recommend it to anyone. But it was like took very much like taking my Bhakti practice to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. It was great to have you.
Yeah. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Sometimes you meet somebody who are like, this guy's great. That's what my feeling with Ari was. He's just got a good bhakti attitude. Like, what can I get you? What can I serve? How can I serve you?
Totally does.
Yeah. So, why don't you read your question here? I put it up on the board here.
Sure. Yeah.
And because he's been around for a while, it's a little bit of a more like advanced question.
Okay.
Okay. So, how does one know when they are ready to make a commitment to seek a guru or initiation?
Okay.
Great question. You want to start off with that, Kastuba? Like maybe even explain what an initiation is, or
Okay, yeah, I may as well go there, right? So,
yeah.
so the way that yoga is traditionally practiced, or you could, and here we're being even more specific. We're talking about within the realm of bhakti yoga. Anyone can begin the practice of it. Anyone and everyone is welcome to practice it. But one may, at a certain point, one might come to a certain level of commitment. One might say, I'm ready to actually make this my I get it. This should be the focus of my life. My life should be built around this, and I want to practice this for real. I'm not just dabbling with this. I'm not just maybe that's the right word, dabbling, but I'm just not, it's not something
Doodling.
that I just do as some like one interesting part of my life, that I have an interest in. But no, I've decided that I want to achieve the goal of bhakti yoga in this life. That's what I'm gonna make my priority. And then the way that that's been practiced for centuries, on and on, is that it's handed down in what's called a sampradaya, or you could say a lineage, right? It's a lineage of teachers and students, or you could say gurus and disciples. And so at that point, one says, I want to be formally initiated into this lineage. I want to become a member, like a formal member of this lineage, you can say, which means, there's a lot that comes with that. Like, there's what that one needs to find out what that means, right? It means I'm a Vedantin. It means that I've decided on my own, I've done my study, I've heard, I've investigated, and I've decided that I agree with what this sampradaya teaches. That I agree that truth is found in the Vedic literatures, truth is found in the Upanishads and in the Mahabharata and in Bhagavad Gita, and particularly in this lineage of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, this particular Krishna Bhakti lineage coming from Sri Chaitanya. I think we decided we want to start to call it more Chaitanya Vaishnavism, right, Raghunath?
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah. So what does it mean to be a follower of Sri Chaitanya? Let me read up and let me hear from others about what really is this lineage. And if one says, oh, this is it, this is what I've been looking for, I have faith in this. I want to practice this the real way, like seriously, with a serious level of commitment. Then one can be initiated. When one's initiated, it means that there's a guru, a representative of that lineage. And what is a guru? Then we have to get into that. It's someone that really truly embodies these teachings, one who truly understands these teachings, one who's learning in it, who's going to have who can have let's say a compassionate, loving mood toward the disciple, who's going to make a commitment that as you're committing to making this your life and you've committed to this goal, I'm committed to helping you achieve this goal. And then this is, I think, where we get to your question, is like, when are you ready to seek a guru or seek initiation? In one sense, my answer to that would be when you're ready to do what they say, you know, which is like a little bit scary, you know, like, you know, but when, you know, the idea is that they're going to, now, honestly, they're different gurus and they embody different moods. Like my guru, you know, and even they'll be different with different disciples. Cause if they're sensitive and some gurus just might be kind of like, you know, this is the way I am, and you know, if you're going to get initiated by me, you better be better be ready to deal with it, you know, because I'm this is the way that I lay down the instructions, and if you're not going to follow my instructions, then this whole thing is just a superficial, you know, facade. So here we go, you know, and some maybe, and some gurus may be like, I have many different disciples. They're in different circumstances in life. They have different mindsets, and I'm giving different types of instructions according to where they're at and how they can accept it. I'm more adaptable to their circumstance. And so, you know, one wants to be really careful about this, because the idea is if it's a sacred relationship, it you know, in one sense, like as sacred as it gets. And it's really meant to be a lifetime commitment, or even we would look at it as like kind of an eternal, you know, kind of commitment. And so when one makes it, one doesn't want to do it whimsically or superficially. Let me use that word, superficially, like I'm doing it on the surface level, but I'm not really doing it on the level of the heart. I'm not really, you know, therefore I say there should be no superficiality in this. Right. That's my first like real, you know, that's what I'd say is the really essential thing. I'm not doing it because I want to get one of those cool names that you get when you get initiated into the lineage. I can see you want to say it's a joke right now, right? More like, what about the uncool names?
Yeah, sometimes you can get an
might get
uncool
stuck.
name. You're like, oh, Maharaj, why?
Why? Guru Maharaj. But it's not that, it's not that, it's not for any superficial reason that the one's doing this. It's really, I want to be trained in this, and I have faith that you're the person that can do it. And that means that when you hear that person speak, something arises in you. Something, and again, it shouldn't be a superficial thing, but something that's very real, that when this person speaks, and when I'm sitting there hearing them speak, I feel 100% this is the right thing. This is truth coming through them. This is what guru means. Guru means that they are the ones that that Krishna comes to us through. When they speak and their words enter our ears, I feel that spiritual energy of Krishna, and the way that I know it is because I feel like giving my life to this. You know, I feel like it all makes perfect sense to me, and within my heart, I'm inspired to give my life to this. That's, you want to feel that. You want to feel that consistently. When you start to feel that from someone that you're hearing from, then you spend time with them, and you begin to investigate more deeply into their life, and until you feel a very deep conviction, this is it. And in a sense, you fall in love, but it's not love like the superficial love. It's love because you're delivering what I need, and it's changing my life in a very positive way. And then you may be ready, you know, to enter into this relationship.
Because we grew up in America, like everything's Hollywoodized. So I'm thinking, he looked at me across the room. He looked into my eyes, and I looked into his eyes, and the eyes connected, and I knew.
And I knew at that moment.
He's my guru. He is my eternal Lord. And it's not, it shouldn't be that. Don't make it that, because we want to be romantic and have this, you know, I saw a light halo around his head, and then I knew he was the one. He was my soulmate. It's not like that. Please don't make it be like that. That's why we do the Bhagavatam every day. It's like buying a car. You know, don't just get attracted to the shell of the vehicle. Understand, do the due diligence about the vehicle. What are the Edmunds.com, you know, reviews of the vehicle? How does it drive? How is fuel? How is the fuel economy?
What is the blue book value of this guru?
What is is it what you need in a vehicle? Because it may not be what you particularly need. So strip away a little bit of the romanticism of it, and get down to the nitty gritty. Who is this person? How do they live their life? How much am I inviting them in my life? You know, so
Yeah,
that's my 2
I-
cents.
when we say guru, it means again like who Krishna is coming to us through, and that may be, Bhagavad Gita is guru, right? So am I eager to follow the teachings of Bhagavad Gita? If not, I may not be ready to accept a formal guru, be initiated by a guru. Where is Krishna speaking to? Where is that pure message coming from that touches my heart, inspires me to give my life to God, makes that difference in my life? When we're ready to follow the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, then maybe we're ready to take initiation from a guru. It's like,
Nice way to put it.
yeah, okay.
That's nice. Thank you, Ari. Very well.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, Harry. Well, so I also want to just join in here. That was a pretty evolved question. I mean, he's been practicing for a while. He's diving deeper into it. If you're new to the show, that might sound a little severe or a little like, where are we going with this? Let me just share that even if you're not like so down the bhakti rabbit hole, there's a lot of just beneficial info you can get for everyday life, because what you find when you study the Vedic literature of India, it's truth, and truth resonates with all people, because deep down, as different as we are, we're very much the same in a lot of ways. And the idea of consuming truth on a regular basis affects us from these mishaps of life, these reversals of life, these glue traps that the material world can get us caught in. And so wherever you're at, or if you just stumbled upon this podcast, take a little bit of what we're teaching here, which is the Bhagavatam, what the Bhagavad Gita teaches, and see how much you can apply it to your life, and see if it works, and see if like the proof is in the pudding. And if you like it, then you consume more truth, and you see how that works as well. So that question was a little bit, down the line. At the same time, we mixed it up today, because here at the retreat, here we people from all different, sort of paths on their bhakti. So the next, I think, is from Lisa about the beads. Michelle?
Lisa and Michelle?
Okay, Michelle, come on down, Michelle, from Jersey. What part of New Jersey are you from? New Brunswick. All right, come on down. And she's got a great question about, it's a very simple question. And sometimes the people they have simple questions, they're scared to ask them because I don't want to seem like I don't. It's great, because there's a lot of people out there with the same questions. So first of all, I want to hear your story a little bit. What's your story? How'd you get here? Everything.
Well, I'm new to Bhakti. My friend Lisa introduced it to me. Been a yogi for several years. Looking for a path to follow, and was introduced to this.
You've been to India too, right?
I've been to India, yes. I've been to Vrindavan, did a pilgrimage. So
Wow.
I'm open and looking for a new path.
Okay. All right. So here's your question. I wrote it down for you.
How do I use a japa bag and mala beads?
All right.
There you go.
That's a good question, because I think it's actually a great question, because very often, people want to go deeper into their spiritual life in a yoga community. And oftentimes the yoga teachers themselves, they've just done a 200-hour teacher training. They themselves like, I don't know, I've never experienced with this. I know alignment. I know musculature of the body. I know how to breathe a little bit, but I don't know how to do japa meditation, which is a big part of a yoga system, truthfully, in all yoga systems. You want me to take this, Kastuba?
I'll say something, but why don't you start?
Okay, so just like how I grew up Catholic, there's like a rosary. And so these are, sometimes people call them a Hindu rosary, but there's 108 beads, the japa mala, or a garland of these beads, and they're used as meditational practice. So each bead would be a mantra. Our lineage chants the Maha mantra. Maha means the powerful mantra. There's a lot of mantras out there. If you study Vedic teachings, there's mantras for stuff. There's mantras for abundance. There's mantras for progeny. There's mantras for, there's mantras for cursing someone. But the mantras we
mental
chant from
suggestion.
What's that?
Mind control, mental
Mind
suggestion.
control mantras. That's the one I'm using on Lisa and the show.
Shape shifting.
So there's so many different mantras, but the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is a mantra to really, it's a bhakti mantra for us to find our deepest connection and divinity. And it's like inviting God into our life to direct us, like, okay, I've got a lot of duties in this world. What is my spiritual duty? Like, why am I actually here? Please direct me. And that's a powerful prayer. It's not give me what I need. We've done enough of that. Give me what I need. God is not your metaphysical Amazon Prime. You know, we should call divinity into our life to direct us. Don't give me just what I want. Give me what I actually need for my self-evolution. And so we use this mantra like that. And it's very good, especially if you're a regular listening to the podcast. Get some malas, chant one Hare Krishna mantra, not just with your mouth, but with your heart woven into your speech. Because it's real, the heartfelt intention, petitioning Krishna to enter your life. And watch magic happen. You know what I mean?
Magic happen.
Right? There's magic there, because now you're identifying yourself as a spiritual being. I identified myself as a Democrat, a Republican, an American, a male, a female. We have so many labels. I identify myself by my community or my career. Now I'm identifying myself as a spiritual being. And this is what I love about Bhakti is we're all spiritual beings out there. It doesn't even matter our religious path, whether we have one or not. We're all spiritual beings. That's what we have in common. That's the deep thread that ties all beings together, right? There is no equality on a material platform. There's total equality when we understand that we are all spirit souls struggling with the body and the mind. And if you're not struggling, give it time. It's just around the bend, because that's what happens when you get a material body. So my dog's moaning over there. He's like, yes, I'm struggling too.
And I don't have any fingers for the beads.
And I can't, how am I supposed to chant? And also we accept that every living entity is a spiritual being. The plants, the animals, the earth itself is alive. And it's a very, very broad gate of understanding spiritual truth. And that's why I love this path so much. It's very accepting of spiritual traditions. And it's not asking you to have faith. It's asking you to have experience on this path. So yeah, and one thing I noticed in the yoga community, because I'm a yoga teacher, is people take their malas, they take them off their neck when they're practicing yoga, and they lay them on their mat. Don't do that. Keep them either in a safe, clean place. Keep them in a bag to keep them clean. Also, don't take them in the bathroom. Don't leave on the floor. And make a dedicated time. Maybe it's going to take 15 minutes, perhaps, to really control your mind and really hear the mantra. In the same way you focus your mind during meditation, like you're not thinking about lunch and you're not thinking about him or her or it, then you just think of the mantra while you're chanting, and think of like you're petitioning divinity to enter into your heart. And it might take like 15 minutes, 17 minutes to go in a real methodical way. See if you can find a sacred place to sit. And if you can't sit still, then maybe just go for a walk in a quiet road or something where you can chant to yourself. How was that? Let's hear what Kastuba has to say here.
First of all, was that a very practical question? Like, in other words, how do you hold the beads and that kind of thing? Or was it?
You got to bring your mouth right
I
here.
understand how to hold the beads. It's a matter of how to use the bag to.
Oh, okay.
Also.
Okay, that's a practical thing. I'm gonna have to show her personally without a video here.
Oh.
But your hand goes in one side, and your little pointer finger, we call it the accusatory finger. Hey, you, the finger we point. You know, they don't point with that finger in India. Like if you say, "Yeah, get me that avocado over there," and you point to, they point with the middle finger. And that one over there, that's like the dirty finger pointer. So they stick that one out of the bag. Like that. So it's like a little elephant trunk. That's what I call it. Does that make sense?
Michelle, so you practice yoga. have you practiced Vinyasa yoga?
Yes.
Okay. So when you chant japa, it's something like Vinyasa, right? Like sometimes the practice of Ashtanga yoga, which is a Vinyasa type of yoga, it's called, like, the practice is seen like a mala, right? That there's just what a mala is basically is a string of anything, right? Like a string of flowers or a string of beads. In this case, a string of beads. And in Vinyasa yoga, it's kind of like the asanas are the different beads, you could say, the various asanas, and the thread that's running through them is the breath, right? That the breath is staying steady as it goes through the whole thing. And when you do the when you pass through the movements in between the heart of the asanas, right? In other words, those vinyasa movements that you do between the what we call the heart of the asana, or you might just call it the asana, right? You're going from from one pose to the next, and then you're moving through these different movements in between. So so in asana like that, in that vinyasa, the idea is that in the heart of the asana, the mind is very focused. The mind can be deep. It may be deeply focused on the breath. It may be deeply focused on a mantra, actually. But the idea is that as you go deep into that, you breathe. Like maybe you take 5 breaths in the heart of that asana, and the mind becomes very clear and very focused in that. And then and then it's kind of like you go through the vinyasa movements, and then as you go into the heart of the next asana, you focus the mind fresh again, right? And then you go through those moves and you focus the mind fresh again. And so when you chant on the beads, it's like that with each mantra. And I love what Raghunath was saying. In some sense, the things that Raghunath was saying is like, well, why can't they sit on the floor? Or isn't all the world made out of the same kind of energy? And what difference does it, or why can't I take them into the bathroom? The idea is that this is a yoga practice, that we keep something sacred, because how it affects our mind. So if you keep those beads, if you think of them as being sacred, and commonly we, in our lineage, we chant on tulsi beads made out of a particular wood, out of the, that's a very sacred wood. And so when you pick up those beads and you hold them in if you've been honoring them that way, then when you pick them up and you hold them in your hand, your mind should immediately be like, oh, I'm in that sacred space right now, right? I'm in that sacred space because I'm holding these sacred beads. And if we're not so reverential towards them, then we may not get that feeling in the same way when we pick them up and hold them, And then you go from that. The idea is that when I hold that one bead in my fingers, and in that moment that I chant that mantra, I want that mantra to ring like a bell rings, just pure and clear in my mind. That mantra just, and then there's a slight break and I move to the next bead. And then again, there's a new focus, a new individual focus on a new individual mantra. And by going through the beads like that, it can, as we move from bead to bead, it's a new, fresh focus on that mantra. Now, devotees that, practitioners that do this, they may move quickly through it, but still they learn, you become accustomed or habitualized into like that fresh focus on each mantra, that it ring clear in my mind, it ring clear in my consciousness, or even as Raghunath was saying, like in my heart, right? That it's ringing clear each time. So that's what we're aiming for, and the beads can help with that. But it is, although these things are, nothing is superficial. That's my message today, right? Nothing is superficial. So like what Raghunath said is important, that we don't let him sit on the ground. We learn that etiquette. It's not arbitrary. It has a purpose. We just need to know what that purpose is.
I love that answer. I love how you tied it in with the, like the yoga mala. The asanas are strung together.
Well, Eddie Stern told me that once, right? Because Eddie Stern was like a real important teacher of Ashtanga yoga and a close friend of mine. But when I first started practicing there, he was kind of like, he knew I was a little different than most students because I had this, 20 whatever year background in practicing bhakti yoga. And he was, he knew a lot about that too. So he said Vinyasa yoga, this type of yoga that I'm teaching you, is very conducive for chanting japa. And at first I didn't get it. Well, why? And then he explained it to me like that, and it made a big difference. Then I began to chant mantras doing my Vinyasa yoga. When I go into those 5 breaths, I'd be chanting a mantra, and I tied this into, like, he once asked his teacher, who was Patabi Joyce, how do we know when the asana is correct? And of all the teachings that I took from Patabi Joyce, to me, this was the one that sticks with me, is that he said when the mind is quiet, then the asana is correct. In other words, we're doing it well when our mind is quiet. It's not distracted. It's not disturbed. It's like if you're doing an asana that's difficult, then your mind tends to be like, right? But when you're doing it well, the mind can be quiet. And then when the mind is quiet, you can place a mantra in that space. Bong, and it's like, and it's a clear ringing.
It's interesting because, if you're new to asana, then to put your body in that position, the teacher refines, okay, you're doing down dog wrong. Then they refine your asana with your pranayama. Like sometimes, even if we're athletes, we come to yoga and we're actually not breathing. And the teacher says, hey, you got to breathe. You refine your asana by your breath, but you refine your breath through your mantra. Because even if I'm doing the breathing and I'm holding the pose, my mind can be it could be envious. It could be looking around the room. It could be angry. So we refine our breath with our mantra, and the mantra actually controls the man, or the mind. Someone else was writing on the board, which I saw, like, well, what kind of mantras should we use? Like, you have these beautiful semi-precious stones, or and some people have a lotus seed or rudraksha beads, and it really depends. Really, they're to count and to keep a metric of how much I'm counting. So in one sense, it doesn't matter. I've like forgotten my beads when I was teaching in Sweden one year, and I ripped a cloth and just made a knot of 108 knots, just to keep a count. But at the same time,
fingers, there's a way
you can count it. There's ways to count on your fingers. But it's really not that. But in our tradition, because we're so fond of Tulsi, because Tulsi is considered a goddess, that a lot of times we wear the Tulsi, or they call it the Kanti mala, the malas of the neck, and our beads are often made of Tulsi too. But that being said, sometimes I don't have my beads with me, or in a different place, or I'll use some other mala that's with me. It is nice to have your own, especially in this lineage, your own private beads that are your beads, that is like your Shakti and your love is invested in those beads, that you keep them private as well. Okay. Was that good?
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
For joining us, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right.
Who's
Good
next?
answer, Kastuba. I like that.
You too.
Okay. This is a very good one from Amy Steller. Amy Steller, come on down here, Amy Steller. Woo! She's a regular Zoomer. She's the one that's always sort of like laying in bed, listening to the show with a pillow over her head. All right, Amy Steller, tell us your story. Where in New Jersey from?
Lake Apaca, New Jersey.
All right, come right into the mic.
Yes, Amy Steller. Hey.
And I met Raghunath a few years ago at a workshop, and then discovered the podcast through a friend of a friend through Joe Rogan, and have been listening every day for a couple years now. And I listen on loop. So like I listen live, and then I'll re-listen throughout the day.
Cool.
And it's interesting, even when you listen to it multiple times, for
more.
me, I will get different things out of it. Like your mind will pick up different things. So it's almost like you hear it differently each time. So my question,
I wrote it on the board right there, where the arrow is.
So how do you resentment is definitely my struggle. How do you let go of resentment regardless of the action? That's my life struggle.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a very important question. And when you say it like that, it makes it sound like you're the only one in the world who struggles with that. The whole world struggles with resentment, being offended, taking offense, happening on a regular basis, like on a daily basis, perhaps multiple times a day, or these deep-rooted resentments from our childhood hurt, or relationship hurt, or broken hearts, or betrayal. You're not alone in this. It's great to ask the question, because when we do suffer from this stuff, especially that broken heart, the betrayal, a childhood trauma, we think everyone else is fine. This is just my issue. This is everybody's issue. And you mind if I just start running with this, Kostuba?
Run. Run as your heart desires.
And
Not too far though.
But I think it's important to realize, like, the big resentments with like a capital R, the real hurt, the betrayals, those are hard to get rid of, especially when we invested a lot of trust, people we've trusted, parental figures we've trusted, and they've deeply scarred us. And oh yeah, adultery and abuse. Like, how do you trust anybody after that? That is one of these things. And so first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, there is no, it's okay. There can be no peace in the mind, and there can be very little limited evolution if I can't practice the art of forgiveness. And that is hard because I want to think myself spiritual, and that guy was a jerk. How dare he do that to me? But I still don't want to forgive him. But my work in this world is to forgive, because I want to be forgiven for what's happened to me, for what I've done to other people, which I'm oblivious to. I want everybody to apologize to me, but I don't want to forgive. That's where I usually go with this. And it's a deep lack of faith that my life is actually in divine hands. I mean, listen to what you just said a moment ago. You listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam every day, sometimes twice a day. That is wherever you're at in the world, if there is a God out there, the best thing you could do is hear spiritual truth on a regular basis. Whatever situation got you here, you're doing it. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing, I was saying this the other day, or yesterday in class, that nothing has happened to you. It's happened for you. Even something as tragic as heartbreak, betrayal, stuff like that. It's what got you here. It's what actually was the trampoline. Because maybe if there was no pain, no hurt, no sadness, you would be just like, what's the big deal to take serious about my spiritual life? Why do I need spiritual life anyway? And the fact is, we all do, but we're sitting almost intoxicated by the material world, you know? But sometimes we need a little bit of a pinch. We need to hit a little bit of a bottom so we can spring off the bottom to new heights. And just hearing your little introduction, I was like, that's quite impressive. That's quite impressive. So that I think is the first thing. But sometimes when we invested a lot of trust is, how do I move forward with this? So one way is to frame it out is, I don't know your story at all, but I'm just saying, if there was betrayal, he didn't do this to you, or she didn't do this to you. The universe placed the situation for your spiritual evolution, and they were used as a puppet by the universe. It has nothing to do with them. They were put into your life for your spiritual evolution. And the best thing you could do is be thankful. Thank you for that, because I wouldn't have been here right now. And the more we become spiritually sober about our real reality, we're going to start to see that all the good points and all the tragedies of our life were expertly given, like an expert recipe for exactly what I needed to make my evolution in this world. Because the goal of life is not to acquire lots of stuff, a massive bank account, a massive net worth. That's not the goal. Those are things. They're, maybe good karmic things, but sometimes they can lead to our destruction. But what we want in our life, whether it's good times or bad times, we want to be spiritually focused. And whatever's happened to you, it brought you to this place of, you're eager I mean, I've seen you around the farm. I know you're conscious. I see you online every morning at 6 a.m. Wherever you're at, you have a strong desire for your spiritual life, and it's only getting more serious. And a question like this makes me realize this person is being very deeply introspective. So that's the short answer. There's a lot of work with, sometimes it takes therapy, spiritual friends, spiritual community to get over that hurt. But the first thing, and it's hard to do, is, I only say this because I do this. If there's a person that really gets me deep, I have to make sure I don't hate them, because once I hate, I lose. What I do want to see is this person's done something wrong, but I'm going to see it as God's divine hand in it. But I do want to pray for the resurrection of their values, because truthfully, I don't want to see them suffer. I don't want to see them actually in pain. I love this person, and this person's just got confused. I got hit by it. It's a blessing, but truthfully, I don't want to see people suffer. If a dog bites me, I don't want to stab the dog in the neck. You know what I mean? What, you know, I want to learn how to love, and I don't want to learn how to be resentment. And there's no win for me if I walk around with hate and resentment. Was that any good? Let's hear Kustu. Kustu was really wise. Let's hear what he has to say.
That was great. You hit on a lot of the stuff that I was thinking about speaking about. You identified this, about having a quiet mind, and what you said had a lot to do with zooming out, which was another thing that I wanted to talk about too. But since you covered a lot of it, I won't go too much into it. I think you covered it really well. But let's say one thing I think you have to, there's maybe this false connection that we make, because what's the cure to resentment? Like, in one sense, that's what you're asking. And the answer is forgiveness, right? But we think forgiveness, we make a mistake in our mind that we think forgiveness means that the person got away with it now, right? Like, they treated me in a particular way, and by my forgiving them, it means they didn't do anything wrong. That's not what forgiveness means. Is that the person that benefits from the forgiveness, the person that suffers from resentment is you, and the person that benefits from forgiveness is you. And because, especially, precisely because of what Raghunath said, and this is why the yogis forgive, is because forgiveness allows the mind. It goes right back to where we were in the last question: a quiet mind, right? And we're the type of yogis, we don't want like an absolute quiet mind. We want a quiet mind so that we can place the things in there that we want and concentrate on them and become absorbed in them and become transformed by them. So don't try to disassociate it with thinking that you're empowering that person's misbehavior. Try to understand it that you're freeing your own mind from their invasion of it with their misbehavior. It's their behavior towards you. Yeah, it got into your mind now, and it's spinning around, and you're in the loop. They've invaded your mind. That's your space to bring Krishna into. Let them out of it through forgiveness, and now you can bring your mind where you want to go. You benefit. Whatever happened there from the karmic point of view, like Raghunath was saying, the universe, which basically means the laws of karma which govern the universe, have dictated that I was meant to go through what I just went through. I accept it. I move on. And really, this zooming out is what it's all about. It's kind of like we need, as we move through this world, a lot of times we need to be right here, not zoomed out, but zoomed in, right? Raghunath, when the show's over, he runs and he has to cook for the kids. He has to zoom in. Like, right now, I need to be present in this moment and take care of my responsibilities. But then he'll spend much of his day zoomed out, like thinking of this from a much broader perspective, that not only is this one moment and this whatever's just happened to me, or even happened to me some time ago, not only is it not worthy of my giving my mind over to again and again, but when I zoom out, I realize that this even this lifetime of mine is relatively insignificant. I've been through unlimited ones, and I get caught up in every lifetime. I get caught up in being absorbed in these petty things. Realize that I have a limited amount of time to focus my mind deeply spiritually in this human form that I'm in right now. That's my goal. That's my mission. you have to think about, like, you have to think this way. I love that you say you listen to the show like more than once a day. It means like this is the way you do it. You have to contemplate these truths, and you have to contemplate them regularly, and then naturally you begin to see from the zoomed out perspective, even when it's put to the test. When someone challenges you through some kind of behavior that's not warranted, you're able to let it, just like they say, let it run off the back of the water runs off the back of the duck, it just beads up and it's gone. It doesn't absorb it. You will naturally be able to do that more spontaneously. And as we go older, and by the time we're like, Amy Steller's like an old lady and she's all wrinkled and she's sitting there with her japa beads, and like,
Not now, in the future we're talking about. She's not an old lady.
But I'm saying the time will come. By that time, you want to make sure that you've learned this art of letting go of all this stuff. As you begin to face those final tests and that final big test in life, you want to be like, oh, that stuff was petty. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I've let go of it all. It's gone, But I thought maybe I could wrap it up with this. I've read this on the show before. It's actually really long. I'm just going to read some highlights from it. But there's this beautiful passage in the Mahabharata, where Yudhishthir is asked a question. What was I'm trying to find the question. In any case, he speaks on forgiveness. Yudhishthir, who's the elder brother of Arjuna, and really, in my mind, maybe to me, the highest inspiration in the Mahabharata, because he's a person that's struggling with so many difficulties, but he's so good, and he always responds in the most virtuous way. And so he's asked a question, and his answer is like forgiveness. It might have been like, what is the highest virtue in life, or something like that. And his answer is forgiveness. And he says a few things, and when it's actually really long, I'm going to read about like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things that he says, I think. But he says more like 25 things or something about forgiveness. And these aren't cliche things that he's saying. You have to think deeply about what he's saying, and you realize how powerful forgiveness is. So he says forgiveness is truth. Forgiveness is truth. Well, what does that mean? The way that I understand that, it means when you are unable to forgive, you are not situated in truth. You're not seeing things clearly. You're still hanging on to some false idea of who you are, some false idea of how important you're being respected is, or some it's like when you're zoomed out and seeing things from the platform of truth, you can forgive. He says forgiveness is stored ascetic merit. This is powerful. Like how do we live as yogis? These yogis would go off to the forest and they perform, asceticism. They would renounce things. They would sleep on the floor. They would give up the comforts of life. They'd give up, so much of what the materialists are interested in. They would leave home and go to the forest and practice it. But even more powerful than that is forgiveness in the world. You can live in the world, and if you can practice forgiveness, he says it's stored ascetic merit. It gives you spiritual power. It gives you spiritual power. He says it is by forgiveness that the universe is held together, right? If we can't learn to forgive one another, everything falls apart, right? So it's so important. He says forgiveness is the might of the mighty, right? When he says stored aesthetic, Raghunath and I know people that like for instance, if I'd say there's one example in my life of a person that has the ability to forgive, it would be Radhanath Swami. I've seen, because there's been many people in my life, but I've seen him be criticized. I've seen him been unfairly accused of horrible things. I've seen him endure all kinds of difficulties that were unfair and irrational, and I've seen him not bear any animosity towards the person that it's coming from. And you can see he's got spiritual power, right? Like his words carry weight and transforms people's lives. When he sets a determination and intention to carry some special project out, he succeeds, because he's got this stored ascetic merit, because it's the might of the mighty, right? It's a deeply empowering way of life, or it gives power. He says forgiveness is sacrifice. In other words, the Vedas speak about how we're all meant to sacrifice to the gods and the goddesses, or to God. But we can do that superficially through a ritual, and that's a good thing to do because it's meant to bring us a certain way. But we do it very practically when we forgive. It's like it's more real, than necessarily a ritual is. Forgiveness is sacrifice. He says forgiveness is a quiet mind, and maybe that's one of the most essential ones, right? Your mind will be disturbed.
That's a tattoo for you.
That's a tattoo. Forgiveness is a quiet mind. And then finally, he said forgiveness is the highest virtue. Right. So if we understand just how we suffer from resentment, not the other person, and how important forgiveness is, the benefit, how beneficial it is to us, and how important it is, and what a high virtue it is. If we really think about that and try to practice it, it will become easier and easier as we go. And that's helped by nature, and that's helped by the process of aging, that we just kind of start to get at this, all the stuff that I was so worried about before in my life, it didn't matter, and all the worrying that I didn't make life any better, and I just don't go there anymore. If we practice that highest virtue, it will make spiritual life open up for us in a powerful way, and so you'll benefit from it. It takes practice, but the more we practice it, the better I still have a lot of work to do on this, but I also realize sometimes my wife says to me, Kastuba, what you just went through right now, in the past, you would have gotten all upset about that and would have stuck with you. Now you just let it go.
You're getting better.
A little bit, just a little step by step,
Kastuba too, especially because we all, a lot of us got into bhakti through a vinyasa practice. It was reminding me of Gopal Chandra, our good friend and student who just left his body from cancer at a young age. And he was very expert at yoga. But obviously in the last, couple of years of his life, he couldn't practice any longer. His body sort of started to dwindle right in front of his eyes. And no matter how hard he worked on his yoga, that got taken away in his last stages of life. He couldn't do a physical practice, so to speak. But what I did see was his bhakti practice just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is the stuff we want to mature with. Big deal if I get older, my asana practice is good, but my forgiveness practice is not good. Forgiveness is an important practice. And because of that, his mind was very clear when he was preparing to leave his body. He had a lot of good reasons to be resentful, angry, hurt, with his situation and with God and the universe itself, but he wasn't like
he
that.
He had ample reason to be resentful.
He had ample reasons to be resentful, and he just wasn't. He just chose not. And his final letter that he wrote to his friends during his celebration of life was just like, I wouldn't have done anything differently. I'm so grateful to the people that came into my life. It was just like, wow, I get it. He's applied this stuff to his life. His material things were all taken away. Sometimes we spend our whole life collecting stuff. Sometimes we spend our whole life just working on our body. It's all going to go. It's all going to go. There's no return on investment. But this forgiveness, this is the real jewel we want to cultivate. This is the real practice, because it prepares us to actually leave this world in such, with such grace. And that's where we're going with this.
Right.
That was good.
I think we're out of time, Rago.
Time for our show, and we still have more.
We'll have to take those questions another time.
I know. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Amy Stellar. Thanks, everybody who asked questions. And sorry for the people we didn't get to all their questions today. No show tomorrow. We're back on Monday. Come join us in India for 300-hour teacher training or our Wisdom of the Sages training. It's all up on our website, wisdomofthesages.com. And also, Seth Lieberman's on the show. We're having our Kirtan Academy in India. So check all those out. We hope to see you there. Get out of the cold in January and come hang out in India and stoke up your bhakti. Thanks for everybody who supports the show. It's a community-supported podcast. And all the people who support us, I really want to give a big shout out and thank you. It really keeps this boat floating. Thank you very much. If you want to be a supporter of the show, if you're getting something out of it, go to patreon.com/wisdomofthesages. Leave a monthly contribution, whatever you can do. for the price of a soy chai latte. You can support me and Kastuba doing this every morning. And next week, we're heading to Chant Camp, California. If you want to go, check out mandala.org. Northern California, 3 hours north of San Francisco. We're going to meet everybody there. All our Zoomers are going to be there. There's going to be incredible kirtan, Karnamrita, Badahari Prabhu. I'm doing kirtan too, by the way. And Kastuba's going to be there for live. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live here at the show. Say what's up, everybody. And locals, please come down to Super Soul tonight, 6:30 for kirtan.
Kirtan tonight, huh?
Kirtan tonight. All right, okay, my brother. I'm going to sign off and dive in with these people. We have a satsang this morning. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue.